15 hours or something during the winter, right? And we get there, and I don't know these Indians, right? And all of a sudden we're in this community hall. Little I know now what it was, but back then I didn't know. We were entering into a night lodge. This was a night lodge ceremony. And for those of you that might not know what a night lodge ceremony, it's just that, right? You're doing it in the pitch dark. And so we go into this community hall, and these guys are nailing the window shut. They're nailing the door shut, and I'm wondering what the heck is going on here. I'm starting to kind of panic and get a little claustrophobic.
You're like, Dad, where the hell did you bring me?
Yeah. And so we're all sitting in a circle, and I see this old man, and he's surrounded by his boys and a lot of, drums and rattles and all sorts of medicines there, right? And we're all sitting in a circle. I still don't know what's going on, right? I know we're in ceremony. I know there's an elder up there, and he's going to conduct a ceremony. And then they say, okay, well, the lights are going to go off, and they're going to, and the grandfathers are going to come in. And I'm thinking, okay, I still don't know what's going on, right? But anyway, I'll never forget it because it was a turning point for me. And the lights went off, and almost immediately that power switch went off, these rattles kicked in, and they scared the shit out of me because it was like they were right there in my face. These rattles were just shaking, and then songs were being sung, and then all of a sudden there's this, I can only describe it as a being that was dancing, because there's about 60 of us in this room, right? A big circle. And the old man was way over there in the corner, but the lights went off and the rattle started, and this being is dancing. And it's massive because you could feel the ground just shaking and vibrating. And I'm still, in fear, right? Trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. And then this grandfather starts speaking to people, and he's speaking to people in a language that I don't understand, but it was Cree, obviously. And then that grandfather comes to, he's right in front of me, and I can feel it. And it just, it's complete darkness, right? So you don't see nothing. Your other senses are kicking in, and you're just trying to, not only figure out what's going on, but you're kind of like in safety and protective mode, and you're I don't know if I had my fists up, gonna fight the spirits, right? But you just don't know. And I remember as soon as that grandfather got in front of me, it was I don't know how to describe it. It was just kind of grounding, and I remember I just kind of gave into it and released, and I knew I was getting blessed. I didn't understand the language that was being spoke to me, but I could feel the language, and I could tell that this grandfather was acknowledging me and was blessing me. And then there was this physical connection, and this hand went over my head like this. The palm of the hand was touching my forehead, and those fingers were at the bottom of my neck. And it was kind of a freaky, eerie feeling to think about how big that hand must have been to be able to do that. But it was also a blessing. And then, that ceremony went on for several hours. And then after that, we sat around and we had a feast, and the old lady, I could see her doing some things and she was making medicine pouches. And then, she says, come here. And she gave me that medicine pouch, and, that was it. That was my connection to this old man, and this old lady called Albert and Mary O'Daniel. And so they, I say this to this day, they saved me. And because I don't know what would have happened, right? I was lost in that mental health and depression and anxiety. And it's not to say that it all went away, but there was this, mechanism, for lack of a better word. It was my culture. And, that's what saved me to this day, I believe, and now They adopted me, a few years after that, because I would keep on going because I wanted more, right? And so it was Albert Daniel, my mushroom, that adopted me, when I was a young man, and took me in, and gave me so many teachings, and treated me with so much kindness. And kindness is, from an Indigenous perspective, when you're immersed in culture and ceremony, is different than how we understand kindness from a Western worldview. And so it's different, right? You think kind of, oh, you come here, my boy, let me take care of you, here's some, it's not always like that. Sometimes it comes with a slap, and and not necessarily a physical slap, but
Yeah.
but like a strong, this is culture. We've got protocol. We got ways of knowing and being that have been around for millennium, and you need to respect them, and you need to walk in that way. And so it came with that. I remember some of the teachings they would do. I can look back and laugh at them now, and we're time to go. We're going to start the lodge. He says, you take that sled and head down to the lake and go pick some grandfathers. I head down to the lake, and there's 4 feet of snow. I'm in northern Saskatchewan, right? Down at the lake, there's 4 feet of snow. I dig through the snow through the bottom, and I see the grandfathers. Well, they're all iced in, packed in ice. And so 2 hours later, they come and check on me, and I got 2 grandfathers, right? And we need 60 for the lodge, right? And they're just playing with me. There's some lessons there, some teachings there. Obviously, humility is one of them. But it was, despite that was, I knew it was where I belonged, and so that was, so now as an as a leader of an Indigenous organization, I tell people we have no clue the impact that we're going to have on somebody when we light the smudge. We have no clue the impact we're going to have on somebody when they come and sit in ceremony with us for the very first time. We have no clue the impact that the smell of our medicines in the air, when they open that door to our organization, that they smell the sweetgrass, they smell the sage and the stone medicine. We have no clue the impact that's going to have on them. But what we do know is that it can be amazing. And so I've been privileged and with my life and given the opportunity to work in an organization where, when I look at my personal values today as a 56-year-old man, as a 56-year-old Escapios, it aligns so well with my organization. And I call it my organization because I am a founder and of that. But now I've moved to an employee, and it was an easy transition because it doesn't matter. Ownership means nothing when it comes to our Indigenous ways of knowing and being and leading. And so it was. People always say, "Well, is that tough, letting go of ownership?" And it's like, no, because we don't own our culture. Our culture is a gift from Creator, from Natawima, and so even when we create cultural tools of understanding, or you can't copyright that shit. It's completely inappropriate, right? The Westerners want to say, okay, well, we need to copyright that and protect that and make sure nobody.
How can we own it?
Yeah, it's like
that's my half brain was thinking that.
Well, yeah, and that's something I appreciate you saying that, because that's something to acknowledge and recognize, because even though I've had this journey, and I light my smudge here before we started talking, and I ground myself into this conversation, my default system is Western thinking, because I grew up in the city. I was educated in mainstream society, in regular school system, post-secondary and graduate.